Hello there. Welcome to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. I'm Ted Bonnet.
I'm Phil Proctor, but I have a confession to make, Ted.
What's that?
I'm not really a boomer.
You're silent.
I'm a bomber. I'm a war baby. So it's a Phil and Ted's Sexy Bomber Show.
Well, we're going to bomb today.
We bomb every day, and especially when we're on the air.
I'm reading a book on generations right now, and you are the silent generation, which, again, you're going against type.
I sure am. I used to, in French class in New York, conversational French class at grades called Monsieur le Bavard. Means Mr.
Talks a lot?
Talks a lot.
Well, Phil talks a lot. Nice to see you.
Phil talks a lot. Oh, yes, I like that.
That's the
name.
Native American thing.
Yes, it's good. Phil
it's
talks
great.
a lot. I like it.
It's
better than Shadow Stevens.
Shadow, who will be back?
Shadow will be back. The Shadow knows.
And
Shadow's name, by the way, before I introduce our guest, means it's an Indian word, which means he who walks in the light. Isn't that wild?
That's cool, actually.
Shadow, an American Indian word that means he who walks in the light.
I hope that people are walking in the light to vote today, because democracy is truly on the ballot this time.
Oh, man, sure
no
is.
question about it this year is on the ballot.
And it is a beautiful day to walk in the light.
Beautiful day to vote.
And to vote for an enlightened politician for a change.
We have a full show today. Just to remind people, this is the Sexy Boomer Show. All of our shows are podcasts as well, and you can find them on your favorite podcast platform, and you can go right to our website, too, sexyboomershow.com. We are starting to launch 2 shows a week.
That's right, because we have a backlog of wonderful interviews and conversations.
That's right.
And fascinating people.
We're even on YouTube now.
Right, so you get two for the price of one, and it's free.
And you get to stare at a graphic.
Oh,
isn't that special?
Listen, if you're on the right drug, that can be a great experience. Well, today, speaking of the right drug, today we have a wonderful guest who named Shelley Herman, and we go back, Shelley, quite a long ways. Speaking of drugs, we go back quite a long ways, and our connection was through the what's the name of it?
Fried Out Features.
Fried Out Features.
Which is a ragtag group of my high school friends from Agora High School. Mm-hmm. And we started making movies back in 1972. And we are still together as a group. We're still creating. We're getting ready to do a documentary.
Yeah.
And I hope that you'll participate
because
you were part of our silliness.
Yeah, I remember me and my darling late wife Melinda Peterson performed with you guys on some radio shows, a running detective show that you had, which was called
Buddy Shell, Metaphysical Private Investigator.
Right.
Perhaps inspired by some work that Firesign had done in the past.
I vaguely remember a character named Regnard Kassin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
You stupid fool. You can't even say his name right. Stop it, Rocky.
Nick Danger.
You're not the guest today. I'm always the guest. Stop it. Sorry, I'm sorry, Shelley.
No, Firesign was definitely our inspiration, and I just had lunch with our high school teacher Jim Gilchrist, Terry Sherino, Jeff White Barb, and even while we were at the restaurant, Jeff saw some food on the table and said, "Eat it raw," and we all went rah rah rah. That's the spirit. And was it more science high?
Yeah. Not responsible. Oh my God.
So there's still your inspiration is with us when we do all of this.
The secret language of the Firesign Theater. You can tell if somebody's hip if you say something like, "Do you like horses?" and they talk back to you. But you're here today because of a wonderful book that you've written.
Thank you.
My Peacock Tale, Secrets of an NBC Page.
It's fascinating. And it's a Bear Manor Press, okay? But you can get it through Bear Manor Press.
Shout out to Ben.
Shout out to Ben Omart. And Bear Manor has been a purveyor of Firesign Theater material and books that I've written as well. And books about Proctor and Bergman that I wrote for many, many years. He's been, putting out Firesign Theater material. So you're in good hands with Ben.
I've heard that before, and I appreciate the fact he took this project on, because while I've spent 40 years working in television as a writer, I had never attempted to write a book before because I thought only smart people wrote books. And I know smart people read them, but writing them was a whole other dynamic for me. So quite literally, somebody gave me Ben's name and I sent him 3 sample chapters and he went, yeah, I'm in. Let's do this.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely his meat. He loves books about the inside story.
It's a great story.
show business.
I spent the whole weekend enjoying the book. And,
thank you.
It's a story about your history in your youth when you worked as an NBC Page here in Burbank, when that really was something in the day.
Yeah, it was a special program. You describe an 18-month program to basically kind of groom future producers and or administrators for the company,
Yeah, and
for NBC.
Up until the early 70s, it was a program that was only for the men.
Of course.
And then they started letting women in to be guidettes, where they could give tours around either 30 Rock in New York or NBC Burbank. And I got there just after the short skirt and white go-go boot era ended.
Oh.
Drat. No, but and still we weren't allowed to wear trousers.
You couldn't wear pants. Oh, no.
Yeah, but
the men.
they saved those really nice preformed polyester outfits for you.
Oh yeah. No,
Strict dress code.
And spoiler alert, I've stole my Page uniform. And I am going to be donating it to, here's another bizarre thing I'm involved with. In Rochester, New York, there's a Rochester. There's a wonderful facility, the Strong Museum of Play.
The Strong Museum of Play.
There's a woman, Marjorie Strong, who endowed this museum, and it has every toy your parents threw away is in this museum. And it is, bring tissue with you. You're going to cry walking through the whole place.
Wow.
And they have a wonderful Mr. Rogers set up there. They've got Sesame Street. They've just opened it up for video gaming. And in 2 years, it will house the National Archive of Game Show History.
Ooh.
And there's wives all over the San Fernando Valley who are so happy about this because they're going to get all the crap out of their garages that their husbands have stolen over the years, and it will be housed at this museum. So amongst some other game show memorabilia I have, my Page uniform will be going there.
You wrote for game shows. Is that how you got your teeth sharpened in the business? Or
I was a student at Cal State Northridge, which was around the time I met Phil.
Yeah.
Because we used to sneak in at KPFK and watch him and just marvel at what you guys were doing.
In this very studio.
Yes,
you remember seeing Firesign.
It was a little smokier in here when I was here.
It was a little hazy.
Yeah.
Those were the hazy, lazy days for
yes.
sure. Yeah.
But no, I stood outside. There's a picture window here. I stood outside the window and I watched, and here I am again all these years later. But as part of being a student at Cal State Northridge, I did an internship on a game show called The Liars Club.
I remember that.
It was...
I'm lying. I never saw the show.
Yeah.
That was good. We should have used you.
Thank you.
But it was hosted by Alan Ludden. And
I toured with Alan Ludden and Betty White in Bell Book and Candle.
Oh, what a great show.
It was a great show. I played her brother, Nicky, and I did magic tricks as Nicky. I made him an amateur magician, which got me into the Magic Castle, where I'm a life member now.
Cool.
And by God, were they fun. I mean, he was so square and she was so crazy and bawdy and fun that I've written about it in my own book, Where's My Fortune Cookie, because it was a fabulous experience. God bless her. What a great dame she was.
They were such great people, and the part of the thing about game shows is you're not supposed to have a tell or be able to, for the host to be able to possibly let on which is the correct answer on
right.
Liars. The object of the Liars Club game was there'd be a particular object, and each of the 4 celebrities on the panel would say, it's a so-and-so. It's a such and such.
I remember. I did see it.
Yeah, it's a doohickey. It's a whatchamajigger.
I loved
and then
it.
Somebody had to figure it out. So we never told Alan any of the correct answers because we were afraid he would tip it accidentally. But that's how I started to cut my teeth writing game shows, because we would sit in Larry Hovis, who was on Hogan's Heroes.
Larry Hovis, yes.
He would have all of us gather in his office, and he would hold up the object and go, okay, what do you guys think it is?
Uh-huh.
And we would just start, just spitballing things like that, and he would make notes and write things down. And I was always so happy if one of my ideas got on the show.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and then I realized I should have been getting paid for this.
Oh, you weren't getting paid?
It was a student internship.
Oh, you were just
So basically, it was the writer. It was a contest of who was the biggest bull.
Yeah, and I was pretty bullish back in the day. So that's how it started. And then again, I was kind of a girl in a man's world doing that. There weren't very many women who were aspiring to do these sort of things, but I would watch the old panel shows with Kitty Carlisle and Arlene Francis and
Henry Morgan.
Well, but specifically the women, because the women, they were dressed in glamorous
To tell the
clothes.
truth,
Dorothy
and what's my
Kilgallen.
line?
And Jane Meadows.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to be smart and funny, and they were on the same playing field as the men. And I kind of keyed into that.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, me either. That's interesting. They really were in those days. That was special.
Groundbreaking.
Yeah, they weren't Donna Reed or Mrs. Cleaver. They were right up there with the guys. So when I got these opportunities, and some other people that helped me along the way too was a local radio personality and game show host Jeff Edwards.
Okay, nice guy.
He and Mark Maxwell Smith had a production company, and I learned if you work for free, you can work all the time.
Right.
So I would.
Hey, you're talking. You're preaching to the crowd.
Welcome to radio. Welcome to radio.
Chorus, choir. That's right. Preaching to the choir. Okay.
So I kind of learned how to do
how'd you
those
make
things.
money from it?
Well, eventually I tricked someone into hiring me. So that
you
worked.
tricked them into hiring you.
So that worked out, and I've been very blessed to be in a community with these really funny and smart people. And even on Saturday, I'm meeting up with Bob Bowden and Adam Needif, who I'm working with the National Archive of Game Show, and we're going to play Password for the evening.
Oh,
so we did this over Zoom during the pandemic.
And they're bringing Password back on the air, or renewing it, or
Jimmy Fallon is doing it for another season. Kiki Palmer is hosting. While I love the idea of game shows, especially in prime time, I don't like it when the celebrities make it about themselves. I like to play a good, clean game. I don't need to see all the razzle stuff with it. Elizabeth Banks is doing a beautiful job with Pressure Luck. There's talk of Hollywood Squares coming back.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I got in, and then I eventually went to work writing for daytime television, and that's where I got my Emmy nomination.
Brava.
Thank you.
All of this is chronicled in the book, but this book, a lot like Ed Begley Jr.'s new book, Take Me to the Temple of Tranquility and Step on It, is filled with people. It's absolutely amazing. All of not only the celebrities, the stories that you tell about these celebrities, folks. It's more fun than the daily toilet.
The 70s, when you were working as a page in NBC, that was an entirely different time.
Yeah, they were the sexy 70s in many ways.
It was sex, drugs, and rock and roll, even at NBC. When it was a squeaky clean image of the NBC Page program. And it's interesting about I remember the pages. I remember coming to see a Carson show, and we were escorted in by a page.
And what did you think when you first walked into the Tonight Show studio? What is the memory that you have of that?
It was always, how small it is. It's very small. And I know that, as you mentioned in the book, it was cold. And Carson was the person that sort of initiated the concept of keeping studios very cold because he felt
the audience awake.
Kept the audience alert.
Yeah, and of course they keep things cold in Las Vegas to keep people up and gambling. You know?
So lots of fresh air. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the characters you bring up in the book, from the darkest people in terms of who they really were in life, like Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah.
His behavior was bad even then.
Well,
and he was selling Jell-O.
Well, the interesting thing is as my fellow pages will attest to, we always had each other's backs while we were there. And we were competitive, but we weren't stabbing each other in the back in the process. And I noticed that it seemed that only the men were getting assigned to work the Tonight Show when Cosby was guest hosting. And I just balled up my little feminist fists, and I marched into our supervisor's office, a woman named Eba Hawkins. And I was like, it's not fair. The boys get to work it, the girls don't. And she said, well, that's what Mr. Cosby wants, and we have to provide what he wants, and it's just going to be the men. It turned out she was protecting us because she had heard stories and she didn't want the women pages interacting with him at the time.
In the book, you talk about how he came in one day with his very large entourage.
With his very large what?
Entourage.
Oh, sorry.
Although he exposed his entourage a lot.
did?
Yeah, he had a habit of letting it all hang out in front of people.
Well, that's because he was sitting behind a desk.
Oh no, this would be in his dressing room, and this is why even the women at the Tonight Show, at a certain point, they said we can't do this anymore.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
I know a lot of guys will sit around in the dressing room and they'll be in their boxers or something. They don't want to get their trousers wrinkled before going out. But no, he was not being discreet about his
natural.
manhood.
When he was walking down the hall with his entourage, didn't he shoulder bump
Well,
you?
well, that was my friend Cindy. Her dad was actually a security guard at the Tonight Show, and he would shoulder bumped her, but also kind of pressed himself against her walking through the hallway.
Yikes.
Yeah, just real creepy. And it got to the point that nobody wanted to go to his dressing room to give him his script or pre-interview him or do anything like that.
Yikes.
It just got a little creepy.
Well, there are lots of great stories, but one of the things that impressed me the most about your book is how you have kept in touch with all the people that you worked with at the other pages. And you kind of followed their stories. How did you do that? It's amazing to me.
I'm so lucky that I have these friends in my life because I wasn't in a fraternity or a sorority. These people became my showbiz family.
I see.
And it's one of those things where people say, like, when a show is over, oh, we'll keep in touch. We'll always be friends. And everybody, goes like,
They're separate ways, right?
But these people, we get together at least once a month to this day. There's
You
about
do?
12 of us. We're going to watch the Oscars on the Sunday.
Oh boy!
We celebrate each other's birthdays together. We've gone to our parents' funerals.
But there's a good reason for this. First of all, we should just explain for people who may not understand what a page at NBC was, and how this was considered the most prestigious executive training program you could find at the time, was to be an NBC page.
And you were turning a page into a part of NBC.
Well, it was an internship. Well, you were paid. You had health care.
Well, yeah, it was.
It was
you even had a dental program.
It was an introduction to the corporation. It was, in fact, as I understand it, if you didn't work your way into the organization above page scale within 18 months, you usually were asked to leave. So it was a meritocracy. It was intended to give young kids a chance to get in and prove themselves early on. Do I have that right?
Absolutely. I mean, the program started 90 years ago in New York.
90 years ago?
90 years ago, in 2023. And
Rockefeller Plaza in New York.
Yeah, Regis Philbin was a page, Hugh Downs, Chuck Barris.
Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah, we have his friendship in common, by the way.
I love
We'll
Chuck,
talk about
yeah.
Chuck.
You worked with him when he was in the CIA. You were in the CIA together, right?
We can't
you're
we
fibbing.
can't talk about that.
You're fibbing. It was the FBI.
Oh,
Mine was
assassin.
Interpol. But the program itself still exists. It's still very difficult to get into the page program. What they want you to do now is fill out an application online, send in a 2-minute video, a pint of blood, your firstborn child, and then they will either fly you out here to L.A. or to New York to interview you in person if you're interested in doing the job. So even though people listening may not be in New York or L.A., there's still opportunities to do this. Now, here in L.A., what they have you do is they do like a 3-month rotation of different NBC jobs that you do so that you can kind of get to know your way around things because the tours don't exist out here anymore. But back in New York, and the tours are like $48 to take the tour out of 30 Rock now. Yes.
Weren't they free before?
Ours was $1.90.
Oh, okay.
I took the tour in New York when I was a kid. And we went into all the old radio studios where they did War of the Worlds, and they I got, because I was the kid, they gave me the 2-inch videotape sample.
Ooh.
I remember it was a very impressive tour. It was a very impressive tour. And I don't know why the pages always stood out, but they did. When I came in to see Carson in 77, through a family connection, I got VIP tickets. And I remember the page treated us like we were VIPs, very button up, very sharp. And so I could see that this would result, because you all were in your young 20s, right?
Well, we were NBC's ambassadors to the general public.
But that's when these wonderful relationships were formed, and I could see lifelong bonds.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I knew very little about the Page program. I was...
How did you get into it?
I slept with a lot of people. No. When I was,
It's in the book,
Yes,
folks.
page 34.
Who's Jake?
I'm not saying.
Okay.
But I'll say this much. I was trying to pick a name for this man that I was really having a great time with.
Yep.
And it didn't work out well.
No.
And I was trying to pick a name that none of my friends would guess.
Okay.
And I'm watching a State Farm ad.
Oh, yeah?
Jake from State Farm. So that's how I
That's
got
where
the
it came
name
from.
That's where I got. And
Yeah.
the title of the book I got because I had Jack Hanna on in the background. And he was talking-
Hanna-Barbera. I worked with them, too. Yeah, the Smurfs and all kinds of crazy.
Well, Jack Hanna had a show that was about wild animals, and he was talking about peacocks. And I'm hearing him talking about the Peacock Tale is exactly. And I thought Peacock Tale, Tale, Tail.
Oh, I never thought of that.
And I went on GoDaddy, and I secured the site, and then I went on Instagram and all the different social media, and I locked up the name. So like within 15 minutes, it's like, well, I guess I'm doing this book now.
Right.
But I first went to like a field trip from school at Agora High School to see the Midnight Special being taped, and that was a late night rock concert show.
Yeah.
And I saw these people in these ugly polyester uniforms who were getting paid to stand around and listen to rock and roll music. And I thought, well, I had been an usher at the Valley Music Theater in Woodland Hills. I had something for my resume. I could be a page, but little did I know it was a lot more involved with
It's
that.
harder to become a page than it is to get into Harvard.
Harvard, that's what they say. Yeah. Still to this day.
Really?
Yeah, there's about 16,000 applications they receive a
So
year.
you did a formal application.
I did a formal application, and then because of a story involving Elvis Presley and a friend of mine who knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody, I had a way in. And at the age of 20, on June 21st, 1976, I became an NBC Page.
Wow. And she's written a page turner about it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, at the end of this book, in your epilogue, you tell a fascinating story about connecting with people. First of all, at the end of the book, you kind of write a lovely chapter about some things you've learned in life and associating with people and how to get places. As you just said, knowing this person or the networking in a very interesting personal way. All right? You give very good advice. And then you end the book with a remarkable coincidence that connects you to someone in a remarkable way. I'm not going to tell the whole story because I want people to buy the book and read it because it's great. And I am giving you a copy of my book, Where's My Fortune Cookie, which is all about connecting with people in strange and mystical
I'm only
ways.
going to accept this if you sign it.
I will.
People should know that even though the book is, I kind of think of it as like a cross between Sex and the City and Mad Men, but set in the 70s. and while it's a little bit gossipy, it's also got really good sex in it.
Yeah, it does. There's some stuff in here.
What's the name of the chapter about Jake?
You have to ask.
Okay, I'll wait. These pages are stuck together here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and also the other dirty one is Side of Fries. That's another
Side
one.
of fries.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That is a good one.
You're listening to Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show, and our guest, Shelley Herman, today. You were an NBC Page. This was an interesting little trivia that the NBC audio chime, doom, 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 that we all grew up with. You mentioned that they are in the key of C, and the musical notes are G, E, and C, which at the time, General Electric Corporation owned NBC. And you write, coincidence?
Because I could not verify that was the exact.
Oh.
But see, when we
But
gave.
that predated GE's ownership, didn't it?
But there was something maybe a little
Altered?
Mystical?
Yeah, but there was a reason that it stayed that way. We would lie a lot on the tour. So
Yeah?
that's why I wanted to
You made
cushion
stuff
it.
up, right?
Yeah, because sometimes NBC Burbank, when I was there, was a working facility. So
Yeah.
sometimes the stages were open, sometimes they weren't, and we just had an hour to fill. And we would say things like on stage 5, if it was closed, one of the pages came up with saying that we can't go on to stage 5 right now because they've got it filled with water and they're shooting sea hunt.
I love that. Shooting sea hunt.
And sea hunt had been off the air for decades at that point. There's a hill that's just in the south side of the lot, and it borders Warner Brothers and NBC, and we would tell people that's where Julie Andrews twirled at the beginning of Sound of Music, or that was Walton's Mountain.
Instead of Norway, right?
Yeah, and people were just, Tommy Chasik even said this is a celebrity vending machine. This is where they buy their treats. I mean, it was just, we really had a vamp sometimes.
But you also had to be careful. In one of the chapters, you point out that people were disciplined and fired for making disparaging comments about really kind of harmless comments about stars. Talking, for instance, about the star of Wild Wild West.
Robert Conrad.
Yeah, Robert Conrad, about him being short.
But see, this is the same knucklehead Page, because he got fired at Universal because he made a reference to Robert Conrad being short.
Oh,
and then he came over to NBC, and again, we're all warned about this sort of thing. And somebody asked about Frank Sinatra, and he made some reference to the mob.
Yeah, a joke about the mob.
And the squeaky clean face representatives of the network, they're not going to want that. Yeah, no. I can see that.
No,
they were afraid of getting hit.
But even my friend Lisa, very harmlessly, made a remark. She was working the line at one of the shows outside, and the Today Show crew came up to her from New York, and they said, "Hey, Fred Silverman has just been hired to be the new president. What would you like to say to him?" And she says, "I'd like to tell him we need a raise."
Yeah, funny, harmless, good, real.
They canned her.
You know, you worked with, most of the celebrities you worked with were very nice people. The Richard Pryor story is really sweet and very funny about he gave a cigarette case.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Paul Brownstein, I hope you're listening. This is the first radio show that's ever asked about your cigarette case.
Oh, good.
Sometimes celebrities would give you a gift as a page if you were like the page in charge assigned to that show. And he gave Sue, Paul's wife, a gold cigarette case. And we were all smoking back then.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It was a lovely gift. And Paul, many years later, was in a limousine with Richard Pryor. And he took out the cigarette case.
Right.
And he said, "Hey, Richard, do you remember the cigarette case?" And he looked and he goes, "Yeah, I effed her." But the other thing with that, the Richard Pryor's fiasco over at NBC could have been so much worse if it hadn't been for his friend Paul Moody. Because it was they let out too many tickets to go see the first taping of his variety show. And the people waited for about 8 hours online. Ooh. And then word came down that Richard only wanted to see the first 3 or 4 rows filled with black people, that it would make him feel more comfortable doing the sketch. There were 500 people lined up.
Wow.
So Paul Moody, very discreetly, so smart, went to the back of the line, found the right people that he wanted to sit there, and brought them in before we brought the audience in to see the show. Now, meanwhile, unfortunately, Richard wasn't feeling well that day. And the taping went till 2 a.m. Eventually, the next day, the fire marshals were called, the police were called. There was a little bit of a kerfuffle because things weren't handled properly, because part of Richard's contract was he got to distribute the tickets, not NBC. Oh. And as one of the pages said, they must have dropped tickets from a helicopter because it just got to be a really bad scene there.
Yeah. They were so popular. But you guys worked the line in different ways. There was another one called pulling tail. That was a gag that you guys did.
That the guys did. I have to... No, I had never heard that expression until one of my friends said it. But no, the male pages would walk up and down the line, usually at the Tonight Show, and they'd find some lovely young ladies that they liked. And
hotties.
And they would say, "Hey, I can get you the VIP seats. You want to?" And then maybe we'll go out to dinner afterward, or hubba hubba. And one of the pages actually wound up marrying one of the women.
And it didn't just stop there. The pages had deals worked out to get people in return for hotel rooms and limos.
Again, I didn't know any of this until I started.
So the pages were working it.
One of the pages had a deal with a limo company that he would grab Tonight Show tickets, and he'd get like $100, which back in 1976 was $100.
That's a lot of money.
And he'd slip him the tickets and get cash. Another couple who we didn't know they were dating made a deal with a concierge at a hotel, and they were getting free hotel rooms for a little afternoon delight.
See, and I can see how this this is executive material right here.
I thought it was very, very, very ingenious.
Good training.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we're getting $1.90 an hour ourselves, so we had to come up with something. I mean, a lot of these pages were roommates with each other too, so we were a tight group of people. There was one girl whose name was also Shelley, not me, who stayed up. I think it was for like 2 or 3 days in a row listening to a radio station, and it was country western music, and there was and if they didn't have a certain commercial break, that you call in, and if you're the call, and she won $10,000.
Wow!
So that's how desperate some of the pages were for money at the time to put themselves through that.
Now, not everybody was sweet. Most of them were. But, in fact, the Red Fox story is very sweet. Really sweet guy. But Harvey Korman, he lived up to his reputation.
Well, Tom Hansen was a valet at Chasen's, and he said that when he got his job at NBC as a page, his first thought was, great, I won't have to deal with people like Harvey Korman anymore, because he was not very nice to the valets at Chasen's. So sure enough, he got a very short-lived show that was being taped at NBC, and there was a guy that was doing audience warm-up that was really good and perhaps getting more laughs than Harvey was.
Oh, look out.
And he had him fired.
Nice.
And,
my goodness.
And it didn't
What
go.
insecurity.
Yeah.
I know.
And his good friend Zsa Zsa Gabor, she was...
So
Yes, one of the, as Henry Morgan said, one of the Gabors.
So one of the pages was assigned to make sure that a certain table at the Rose Bowl stayed vacant so that the president of the network could sit there with his family to watch the Rose Bowl game.
Sure.
So Zsa Zsa plops her big fat butt down and refuses to leave. And he's like, please, Miss Gabor, it's my job. You have to leave. And finally, Lucy Arnaz came by, and she's the one who kind of intervened and said, come on, get out of here. And then Zsa Zsa told the page to go F himself. So, and this was before she slapped the cop. So we had no idea she was capable of this. Yeah.
But on the brighter side, you had wonderful encounters with Andy Kaufman.
Oh, I adored Andy.
And
Great
you
chapter
got to
about
riff
Andy.
with Robin Williams.
Robin, Lisa, the girl that I mentioned who lost her job at NBC, she asked me to go to the Comedy Store with her one evening because she wanted to try out for the Comedy Store Players. Mm-hmm. And I had no interest in performing at that point because I'm short and I want to be a writer.
Yeah.
And so I went with her, and we knew Robin because he had done, they had tried bringing Laugh-In back. While I was at NBC. So we knew Robin from the hallways, and he was always really nice and gave sweaty hugs, and
He was a sweetheart.
So I'm sitting there with Lisa, and they're doing some kind of improv, and Robin grabs me to come up on stage, and we do a little improv together, and it was really fun. My friend Robin. And the next day, I get called to be in the Comedy Store Players, and my friend Lisa didn't.
Wow.
And then, as luck would have it, I broke my leg later that day. And I needed.
As luck would have it. You took break a leg a little too seriously in the show business tradition, didn't you?
I did, and I had to stay at NBC because I needed the health insurance and the disability while I was out. But then the really nice part about all that is I would go every summer to the Greek Theater to see Harry Chapin because I just adored him, and I would hope to try to live up to half of what he was able to do. Mm-hmm. And page friend George Glovna took me to the Greek Theater and sat in the front row of the orchestra, and I hiked my leg up on a banister that was in between the stage and the audience.
Your broken limb?
The broken limb. I had my crutches, and the next day it turns out Harry was on The Tonight Show. So I called George and I said, quick, Harry's on The Tonight Show. Let's go back and tell him that we saw the show and how much we love him.
Sure.
So we went backstage, and before I could even open my mouth, Harry looked at the cast on my leg and said, you were at my show last night. So
what a way to get recognized, right?
But I got to talk to my hero, and
isn't that nice?
and I'll always cherish that. And through Facebook, I'm still in touch with Tom Chapin, and he knows about the book, and I've told him because I quote Harry quite a bit in the book.
Yeah, there are some wonderful quotes in the book. I had you kindly gave me an electronic version, and I highlighted several of the things. One of the things that I love is the way you describe luck. Okay, as a confluence of talent and opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And a little bit of chutzpah.
Well, all right.
Yeah, that's the Italian word
Well,
for
that's confidence. That's confidence. And, my favorite quote in Shakespeare is from Hamlet: "The readiness is all." That, to me, is the secret to life. If you're conscious and you have a goal in mind, or even if you don't, but you have an intuitive feeling about something, when the opportunity arises, you have to say yes
And you can
embrace it.
And that is creating luck. That's acting when the door opens.
Yeah, that's right.
well, in a
You can
less
call it
in a
luck.
less highfalutin way, I call it putting on my Lucy Ricardo thinking cap. Because if Lucy had an idea of wanting to do something on the I Love Lucy show, she found a way to do it. And there was this time that I really wanted to get an appointment with Dick Ebersol, who at the time was the youngest VP at NBC. He and Lorne Michaels created Saturday Night Live. And I thought, if he could only meet me, he would fall in love with me and I could be his assistant and we could take over the town together.
Yeah, a little bit of fantasizing there.
Idealism.
Yeah,
Yep, good.
but I felt like I was on the same wavelength of him, of what his vision was, and I felt I could be side by side, help him fulfill it. So I could not get an appointment with his secretary to save my life. And I'm driving home one night, and I'm listening to KABC Talk Radio, and they said, and our next guest is Dick Ebersol. And I'm like, whoa! So I pull off the freeway at the Woodlake exit, went to a Shell station, started cramming quarters into a payphone.
Payphones, folks. There's some people out there who have never heard of them. But, okay.
Yes, it's what we used to do in the old days to communicate.
Yep. Dropping coins into a payphone.
So the call screener says, what do you want to talk to Dick about? And I said, I want to know what Gilda Radner's really like. And so they put me through, and they said, okay, caller, what do you want to ask Dick Ebersol? And I said, hi. My name is Shelley Herman, and I'm a page at NBC in Burbank. And I've been trying to get an appointment with your office for weeks now, but your secretary won't make the appointment. So will you promise me right here on the air, right now, in front of everybody, that you'll make an appointment to see me?
Wow, that's chutzpah.
And he said, yes. So that's kind of making your luck.
And you did have an appointment with him then? He
I
followed
had the
through?
appointment. The first thing he said was, leave NBC.
Yeah. Go somewhere else for your career, right?
And then come back with that knowledge, and NBC will value me more. But I had just got there. I wasn't
Sure.
ready to leave yet.
Yeah, wrong
But that's
advice.
another example of creating your own luck.
Yeah.
By putting somebody inadvertently on the spot. I mean, he couldn't say no on the air. He'd come off as a heel.
Yeah, but
Of course, come on
wouldn't
down.
Lucy have Ricardo been proud?
Yeah.
That happened to me once. I did some plays at the Mark Taper Forum when Gordon Davidson was in control of it, who, by the way, is distantly related to Peter Bergman. And I had done a play called Musica that I won some awards for back in the day by my friend John Guare from Yale. And they were doing like a 25th anniversary gala at the Taper. And I hadn't been invited to do anything in it. And I was driving and I heard Gordon being interviewed at a restaurant in the valley that I was near. And so I drove over and I walked in and said hello on the air. And it was all about, I had this thing called Singing the Penny, this brilliant piece that John Guare wrote as part of this basically anti-Vietnam War piece, Musica. And I came in with a penny, which I found on the ground, and I gave it to Gordon, and I said, singing the penny. And by gosh, he invited me to sing the penny at the gala. Again, because it was just like opportunity. Let's take advantage of it.
I once cornered the number 2 man at IT&T in 1975, and in front of he was impressing lower level marketers at this function, and I covered it as a reporter, not telling them what I really wanted to do. And when he was talking about how it's done, I introduced myself as a reporter, and asked him for an interview. And he had no choice but to say yes.
Yeah,
so I'd go to the headquarters of IT&T, go to the top floor. I get threatened by his assistant immediately to take away our radio license if I do anything smart. And I interviewed him, and I asked him if he killed Allende. Chile's Allende. And I read a passage from a book about it, Sovereign State of IT&T. I nearly peed my pants because I was 18. And he looked at me like, really? And he was so taken because when you're young, you get away with stuff like that. And he said, well, I work for a publicly held corporation. We came in there by their invitation. We wired them up. And then this guy comes in and nationalizes. He was ripping us off. He admitted to it. I asked him, did you give the CIA $8 million to overthrow Allende? He didn't deny any of it. He admitted it all. He was indicted 3 years later.
Whoa.
That's the stuff you do when you're young and you don't know any better.
Well, now, Ted is working on an incredible podcast piece about JFK and the assassinations called 12 Murders.
With Lamar Waldron.
Now, is that part of the episode? No,
there's so many stories to tell, but that's an entirely different
So
thing.
it's not one of the 12 murders. Okay.
No, but you'll hear more about it as we go. Shelley Herman.
Have you been to the book depository?
Yes, I have.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah, I got sick. I had to leave the town
Yeah.
early. It just made me... Well, when you get up there on the grassy knoll and you look at how close everything was, it makes perfect sense as to what actually happened.
Well, and when you go up to the book depository, and it's that shot that we've all seen in those black and white and seeing the Zapruder film. Yeah, it is. I'm getting goosebumps even thinking about it.
It's not a pleasant place to go.
No.
But speaking of which, we're talking to Shelley Herman, author
Don't
of
call
my
her a
Peacock
witch.
Tale. I'm not.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, I'll bet.
There's a couple of stories. There's a couple of characters in your book. Well, probably if you remember latter days of Johnny Carson, there was this really interesting and awful kind of kerfuffle with Joan Rivers. I didn't understand the story in detail as you offer it. I think it's worth telling what actually really did happen there.
Well, the information I got about this was from a woman by the name of Dorothy Melvin, who was Joan's manager / assistant during all of this. She's now living in Israel. And it's the first time I learned how to use WhatsApp on the phone so I could talk to her for hours at a time without costing a dime.
Right.
And there was a guy who was a very well-liked executive at NBC named Jay Michaels. And to this day, if you say his name, people throw their head back and laugh because those who knew him loved him. They still love him. Again, this was a different time.
Yeah.
He was the most politically incorrect person, but if you didn't have a filthy nickname, you weren't part of the club. So Jay was known for practical jokes. This is what happened. Somebody, and I put it in quotes, somebody wrote a memo that listed names of people to possibly replace Johnny Carson. Letterman's name wasn't on the list. Leno's name wasn't on the list. The only one, Dorothy...
What year was this?
I'm trying to remember if it was when she did her show. I don't know offhand.
It was like late 70s, right? Or
No,
early 80s?
a little later than that.
Yeah,
it was in the 80s.
80s.
Yeah. And David Brenner's name was on the list. Dorothy remembered that. But in Jay Michaels' handwriting, it said, "You have no home here." And he gave that memo to Edgar Rosenberg, Joan Rivers' husband.
Right. He was writing that about Joan.
Yeah. And rather than Joan and Edgar going straight to Johnny, who adored Joan Rivers, who mentored her, she was the only female comic who was ever a guest host of The Tonight Show. Before that, it was like Helen Reddy or Florence Henderson or Beverly Sills. He didn't want comics. He wanted girl singers at the time. So he really pushed for Joan. Now, keep in mind at the time, too, that this was going on, Joan was starting to do very caustic humor. It wasn't Heidi Abramowitz. It was Elizabeth Taylor jokes.
Yep.
And
Fat jokes.
Yeah,
I
and
remember.
it was getting kind of mean. And Peter LaSalle, who was one of the producers of The Tonight Show, was even at that point saying to Joan, listen, Monday nights, can you tone it down a little bit? This isn't the same crowd we're used to drawing for The Tonight Show.
Family crowd.
But Joan was doing well, and she wanted to keep the momentum going. So when she got this memo, she decided, that's it, I'm done. F all of them, I'm out of here. So she cut a deal with Barry Diller to go to Fox to do a late night talk show there.
Right.
Without telling anybody.
Well, except it's a small town.
Yeah.
And word gets out. And Joan had even tried to recruit Peter LaSalle to come with her.
To produce.
And he said, Joan, you're making a huge mistake.
Now,
Don't
he was a
do
producer
this.
on Tonight?
One of the producers of The Tonight Show, Fred DeCordova and Peter LaSalle were the big guys over there. So Dorothy was in the room when Joan tried to call Johnny to tell her what was going on, and Johnny picked up the phone and then just hung it up and didn't speak to Joan.
ever again.
Ever again.
So
Because he was so hurt.
So she could have potentially avoided that had. So are you saying that J. Michael's note on that memo?
Somehow that note made it seem credible, and that Peter LaSalle has always said, if any memo came from anywhere, it would have had to come through me.
Right.
And that was not an official NBC memo. Somebody had played a prank on,
Wow.
and there was no reason to think that Johnny needed, that there needed to be a list for that, because Johnny was nowhere near retirement at that point.
That's right. That's right.
And sadly, all of that just led eventually to, there was only 7 months that her talk show lasted.
Yeah.
It started what became known as the late night booking wars, that if you were going to do Joan Rivers' show, you couldn't do Johnny's show,
Right.
and vice versa. And then it started to get to be like, well, if you're going to do this person as a guest, like on Joan's show, if you're going to get this A-lister, then you've got to take 3 or 4 of these B-listers also. And that started a whole different dynamic on how to cast these late night talk shows with guests.
And this is back when there were 3. It was a 3-network universe, and this really was consequential. I mean,
Yeah.
there
Oh,
were
yeah.
huge
It changed
audience.
the
I mean,
whole
what was the
landscape.
average audience for the Tonight Show? Like 15 million people?
Oh, yeah. And again, depending on the guest host, if it was, George Carlin or Richard Dawson or McLean Stevenson, it would be different numbers.
There's some great stories
Yeah,
about
McLean
McLean Stevenson
Stevenson.
in that book.
Now
Oh
that you
my
bring him up.
God!
Oh, I felt like the duck just dropped. I said the secret
Oh
word.
yeah! Oh, by the way, I used to hang out with Joan when she was just starting her career in the Village in New York. We loved her, me and whoever my friends were back in the mid '60s, and we used to follow her from club to club, and then hang out with her afterwards. And she was just funny as hell, and she was a female comedian, which at that time was also.
But that's so sad
amazing.
to hear that that's what it was a misunderstanding, essentially.
It was, but it was also kind of narcissism. It was,
She should have just gone to one of the producers.
or gone to Johnny, who loved her.
Right.
Yeah,
And say, what's this?
that's
I'm
right.
hurt.
Yeah, because Johnny owned the show at that point, and he's the one who made the contract with Joan
Right.
to be on the show.
Yep, she should have gone right.
Oh,
to
he should have just gone to. Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But again, how did you track down all these stories? Was this when you started to write this book? Was this what you thought the form of the book would be? I got to talk to the other pages and find out what happened to them that I may not know. I mean, how did you dig up all this dirt and make it so entertaining?
As I mentioned, there's a core group of us. There's
You're
about
still
12
meeting.
of us.
Yeah.
And
then-
you met regularly.
And then when COVID hit, we were meeting on Zoom. And then we realized, as we were telling each other the same stories over and over again, we realized we could start reaching out to our friends who weren't living in California anymore.
aha.
So we have people in Florida.
Expanded the
and
scope of your
South Carolina.
inquiries.
And then more and more people, and so on and so on. They just kept piling on with their different stories.
Well, listen, folks, if you want to get some of these wonderful stories,
Yeah, 'cause you gotta
for
read it just to
yourself,
hear
you
the
got to
McLean's.
read this great book. It's My Peacock Tale: Secrets of an NBC Page. It's got a great picture of Shelley as a page with Johnny Carson. What a happy picture of Johnny Carson that is.
Isn't that great? And his signature is on the front of that.
Yep.
And not only is there's lots of good pictures inside the book.
Yes, there
there's
are.
that wonderful letter from Gilda Radner that's in the book.
Oh, great! Yeah, the Gilda Radner
Gil-
story is
yeah.
just beautiful. It's wonderful.
As good as the Gilda story is as bad as the McLean story is.
Ooh,
So
yeah,
it's,
but
it
McLean-
runs the gamut. Yeah.
Nice. Well, Shelley Herman, thank you so much. It's been an
Thank
absolute
you
delight.
so much. This is a lifelong dream to
Be
to
on
be
our
able
show?
To be able to have this full circle moment here.
Yeah,
at
back in
KPFK.
the studio again.
How
Yeah.
nice. How nice. Her book is My Peacock Tale, Secrets of an NBC Page. Great stories. Really great stories. Highly recommend the book. This is Phil and Ted's Sexy Boomer Show. We are launching now 2 shows every week on our website.
Well, there's only one listener to this show that we know of, so
Maybe he
what's
has
gonna
a friend.
Going to talk to himself.
Yeah. I wonder what our listener's pronoun is.
Oh yeah, it.
SexyBoomerShow.com is where you can find us. And you can even send us an email through that because we'd love to hear some feedback.
Yes, we'd love to hear get some feedback.
All right.
Come on.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Shelley.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Great fun, Shelley.
Phil,
Thank you a lot.
don't forget to vote.
That's
It's
right.
Super Duper Tuesday.
And I'll be working with you on a documentary about the Fried
Out features.
Out features.
Absolutely.
In May. You can count on me. I'll be there.
Yay!
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right. Enjoy
Thanks.
the good weather, folks. Bye.
Bye.